Good morning. So we continue through Mark chapter 12. Then they sent him to some Pharisees and some Herodians to trap him in what he said. And they came and said to him, Teacher, we know that you are sincere and show deference to no one, for you do not regard people with partiality, but teach the way of God, in accordance with truth. Is it lawful to pay taxes to the emperor or not? Should we pay them or should we not? But knowing their hypocrisy, he said to them, Why are you putting me to the test? Bring me a denarius and let me see it. And they brought one. Then he said to them, Whose head is this, and whose title? They answered, The emperor's. Jesus said to them, Give to the emperor the things that are the emperor's, and to God the things that are God's. And they were utterly amazed at him. So once again, we have the Pharisees coming in, and the first thing they care about is it lawful? Is it lawful to do something? Is it lawful to do something? They always care about the rights and the wrongs, the do's and the don'ts, rather than the bigger picture. So here they say, is it lawful to pay taxes? Now, they know that the Jewish people are frustrated with the Roman rule, and so they want to know, should they pay taxes to Rome? Well, they're hoping to trap Jesus. They're hoping they're going to get the people against Jesus because Jesus will say either, no, you shouldn't pay taxes to Rome, in which case he'll be in trouble with the Roman authorities, or he'll say, you should, and then he'll get unpopular. Well, he actually catches them in their own game. He asks them, show me a coin. Whose head is on the coin? The emperor. That's whose head is on the coin. So he's basically catching them in their own hypocrisy. He says, well, if you're willing to use these coins to make money for yourself, but the coins come from the empire, then you should pay those taxes if you're willing to profit. But the more important thing is to give to God the things that are God's. So really, you should be focusing on doing good deeds. It's not really about what you're doing with your money. It's about what you're doing with your heart, once more. Are you doing good deeds with your heart? And one of the ways you can do that certainly is with your money. But you should still pay taxes if you're willing to be successful in a system that uses such money. So they're a little disappointed because they didn't catch them as well as they hoped. Some Sadducees, who say there is no resurrection, came to him and asked him a question, saying, Teacher, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies, leaving a wife but no child, the man shall marry the widow and raise up children for his brother. There were 7 brothers. The first married, and when he died, left no children. And the second married the widow and died, leaving no children. And the third likewise. None of the 7 left children. Last of all, the woman herself died. In the resurrection, whose wife will she be? For the 7 had married her. Jesus said to them, Is not this the reason you are wrong? That you know neither the Scriptures nor the power of God? For when they rise from the dead, they neither marry nor are given in marriage, but are like the angels in heaven. As for the dead being raised, have you not read in the book of Moses, in the story about the bush, how God said to him, I am the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? He is God not of the dead, but of the living. You are quite wrong. So, the Sadducees, one of the things that they believed was there was no resurrection. So they decided to try and trap Jesus by coming up with a completely ludicrous scenario where one woman ends up marrying 7 brothers in a row. And then they say, well, if the resurrection's really a thing, then who's she going to be married to? Because there's 7 people, 7 men who have died, and they're expecting their wife to be resurrected with them. Who's their wife? And Jesus says, well, you're missing it. In the future, in the future life, there is no marriage. Whoever heard of an angel who was married? There is no marriage. There's no, that earthly concept isn't a thing anymore. Many people, they like to buy engagement rings, then wedding rings, and then eternity rings, which is beautiful, but it doesn't mean anything theologically because in eternity, that marriage doesn't exist. Then we go on to Jesus's key point. These Sadducees are so confused about what's actually the case and how God works. Jesus says to them, have you not read in the book of Moses how God said, I am the God of Abraham? He didn't say, I was the God of Abraham. He said, I am the God of Abraham, implying Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are still living. He is God not of the dead, but of the living. And so the Sadducees, once again, have missed the point. One of the scribes came near and heard them disputing with one another. And seeing that he answered them well, he asked him, which commandment is the first of all? Jesus answered, the first is, Hear, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord is one. You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength. The second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other great commandment than these. Then the scribe said to him, You are right, teacher. You have truly said that he is one, and besides him there is no other. And to love him with all the heart, and with all the understanding, with all the strength, and to love one's neighbor as oneself, this is much more important than all whole burnt offerings and sacrifices. When Jesus saw that he answered wisely, he said to him, You are not far from the kingdom of God. After that, no one dared to ask him any question. So, Jesus talks about the two greatest commandments. Well, the first one he said is love God with all your heart, with all your mind, with all your soul, with all your strength. When we think of commandments in the Bible, you should go to Exodus 20, where you will find the 10 Commandments first written down. And I know many of you have them memorized, but just in case you haven't, let's go through a few of them. So, in order, we have to worship and serve the Lord, do not take the Lord's name in vain, to honor the Sabbath day, and to honor those who created you. So all of those could be filed under love God. Jesus, by talking about these two greatest commandments, isn't reducing the 10 Commandments. Instead, he's summarizing them. And then he says, love your neighbor. Well, let's look at the 6 remaining commandments. Do not kill. Do not commit adultery. Do not steal. Do not lie. Do not covet thy neighbor's spouse. And do not covet thy neighbor's things. So through those 6, we're seeing that we're meant to help create a nice community, to love one's neighbor as oneself. And so Jesus, by saying that those are the 2 greatest commandments, instead of replacing the 10 commandments, he's summarizing the 10 commandments.